This was one of those movies that got me intrigued the first time I watched the trailer. The gritty mood, eerie music, mysterious characters, and that title. And well, after watching the movie, I found out that it's pronounced Diés Iraé, and this was that rare instance when the movie delivered everything the trailer promised and better. So here's why I believe Diés Iraé is an almost perfect horror movie. One of the most crucial aspects of any horror movie is its atmosphere, and Diés Iraé excelled in this regard, turning a modern-day premium home into something genuinely unsettling. There were many ways the setting could have failed, but the filmmakers perfected the lighting, the shadows, the tone, and the props. Later in the movie, we moved through different settings, from a modest home to one steeped in poverty, yet the horror remains unrelenting. The movie knew exactly where it was headed, which made the entire experience all the more intriguing and uneasy. And those still frames. Take this scene as an example. We're staring at something seemingly irrelevant to the plot, yet it creates a profound sense of unease. There are multiple of such still frames and slow zooms in the movie, forcing us to stare at ordinary things until they feel disturbingly real. Not a lot of movies dare this, but when done right, creates a mood that is unmatched in creating horror. Something as simple as the click of a hairpin becoming your absolute nightmare is, I would say, a job well done. And then there's the anglet. Subtle, yet it creates the dreaded feeling of doom and uncertainty as its sound grows closer with each step. I cannot remember the last time a movie did the anglet so right after the old-time classic Malayalam. This film captures that sound with striking clarity, weaving mood and tension as memorably as the classic itself. Wind and lights were some of the crucial elements that was recurringly used in the movie. There was particularly this one scene where Madhusudan and Poti was taking the clothes from the hang line, and all of a sudden it gets windy and the camera zooms in on the wall behind, only to hear the shrill chaos of a cat and a dog tearing into each other, echoing through the silence. Just a haunting vibe and a subtle way to say that doom is near to him as well now. Though it might sound unusual for a horror movie, the film conveyed a genuine sense of realism and authenticity. The way it incorporated all the elements, characters, and scares was so seamless that we became fully immersed in its world. And this is exactly where the movie rises above being just another average horror experience. For the most part, nothing felt forced or out of place, and the story carried a refreshing twist at the halfway point. We discovered that the entity was not Connie, the diseased woman introduced at the start, but a man named Philip who had been obsessed with her. Philip had died of lung cancer, and she remained the sole reason Philip clung to his world even after death. It was Philip who haunted Rohan, likely because Rohan had taken Connie's hairpin from her room during his visit to her funeral, a possession Philip was fixated on, just as he was with every item that had belonged to her. All this world building and atmosphere could have fallen apart if not for the execution. Specifically, the way tension and fear were portrayed. Let me start by saying that the performances in the movie were brilliant. Everything felt so organic, at times almost too organic, that you find yourself completely lost in the world the film patiently builds. While there weren't many characters to follow throughout the story, the ones we did get were compelling enough, and it was truly impressive how consistently they were portrayed, especially in the arcs of certain characters. There's a powerful sequence in the movie where Rohan finally accepts that he's being haunted and decides to fight back. He chooses to stay awake all night, believing that Connie, the spirit he thought was tormenting him, would find peace once her parents performed the necessary rituals for her afterlife. The entire sequence was beautifully constructed. You truly appreciate how Rohan accepts his fate and struggles against something beyond the natural. And yes, the pacing and rhythm of the scene were absolutely thrilling. The movie did a phenomenal job in portraying the haunting entity and several of the gore sequences. From the deceased body of Connie to the ghost reveal, from Kieran's fall and gruesome open fractures to the climactic fight between Elsama and Rohan, every struggle was depicted with a certain degree of realism that added authenticity to the experience. The acting was simply outstanding. The choking scenes in particular deserve special praise for how convincingly they were executed. Honestly, this was professional level work. I cannot remember the last time I saw a visual depiction of fall damage in mainstream Malayalam movie. The scene was so well done that it made my gut roll at the sight of those bloody fractures, and the entity itself was revealed right at the peak of tension, making the moment all the more shocking and effective. The final act is often where a movie can easily falter. After all the build-up and majestic performances, the payoff must deliver the final spark of execution. Thankfully, it's safe to say this movie handled it well. Even though some of the scenes were predictable, I love the way Philip was introduced as Manu, his church name, adding a subtle twist to the narrative. Elsama defending her son's body hidden in his room for presumably 3 to 6 months was chilling. The inclusion of Kani's earring and other small belongings brought by Elsama, along with the anklet tied to her son's lifeless ankles, tied everything together. It explained perfectly why we kept hearing the sound of anklets throughout the movie, making the reveal both logical and haunting. At the start of the movie, the protagonist is portrayed as a narcissistic playboy who doesn't care much about his family or friends. But as he endures the haunting and mental strain that comes with it, his character gradually begins to feel a helplessness he may have never experienced before, especially as the only son of a wealthy architect settled in USA. His arc was subtle yet deeply believable, particularly in the scene where he intentionally calls his mother to ask about his father and sister, and the moment where he helps Elsama to her feet just minutes even after she tried to kill him. Everything about his transformation felt coherent. It wasn't just a protagonist who had a meaningful arc, but Madhusudan Poti finally embraced his true skills, stepping into his father's path as the beginning of a powerful sorcerer and exorcist. There was also the subtle mention of Kiran, Kani's brother, doing better after his fall by the end of the story, and Elsama returning to her hometown with her brother. Each character fulfilled their role within the time period the movie was set in, making the narrative feel complete. There were also scenes as a callback to his older films, this photo connecting the world of Brahmayuga, and George the counselor from the movie Bhutagalam at the end, reinforcing his universe building and story taking place in the same world. The movie concludes with a chilling cliffhanger that reintroduces Kani into the story as a ghost. In the final moments, we hear a whisper, Rohan, in her voice, just before the screen cuts to black. I could go on by highlighting more of the film's standout moments and subtle details that really elevate the experience, like how the bite scar remained visible even at the end, or how visually impressive this particular shot is. And yes, since we are diving deep, it's important to acknowledge that the movie does have its flaws. At times it relies on borderline unnecessary methods to build tension. While these moments occasionally work, they often feel forced, especially when compared to other scenes where the suspense is handled flawlessly. That contrast makes the imperfections stand out even more, reminding us how much stronger the film can be when it trusts its natural atmosphere and storytelling instead of leaning on contrived techniques. Also, there are certain aspects of the movie that were never really explained. For example, how long had Philip been dead? How did people react upon discovering his body in the burned house the next day? The film also doesn't mention Elsama facing any consequences for that incident. And what exactly did Kiran do to provoke Philip into throwing him off the roof? These mysteries are left hanging in the movie. Still, they're just minor nitpicks that won't break your experience. Perhaps later films might provide answers to these questions. Horror is one of the toughest genres to get right. It's not about the jump scares, it's about using light, sound, pacing, and atmosphere to make things feel real and unsettling. If even one detail feels off, the fear can turn into comedy. That's why good horror is rare. When it works, it doesn't just scare us, it stays with us long after the movie ends. Performance, plot, payoff. That's what makes a movie truly great, and Diés Iraé delivers all three. It was absolutely worth my time, and I highly recommend it to anyone, especially if you're a fan of the genre. Definitely a popcorn-worthy title, and I'm excited to see more from this team in the future. That's my take on the movie. Now I'd like to hear yours. Drop a comment below with your thoughts, and if you're still here, a like and a sub would mean a lot. This is my very first video on this channel, so your support goes a long way. I'll see you on the next one. Later.